welcome back to the Chalice and the Sword podcast. This is the podcast of Reverend Zoe Inman that explores questions and topics through many lenses, primarily the mystical. In today's episode, we are doing Q&A with Rev Zoe, and joining us for discussion, we have Suave, aka Kyle, JV, aka Jorge, and Alan, our producer. So, Suave, you have a question for Rev.
Yes. So we were saying before the podcast, we were talking about relationships and how when we get into like tiffs or conflicts with each other, there can sometimes be an underlying dynamic or something that's like being shown to us, maybe about something we haven't accepted about ourselves, and we're trying to like get someone else to see that or validate that or whatever. And then jokingly or not, a place where I came from in more of the New Age community around...
the Ponzi scheme approach to spirituality. I had to get that in there today. That inspiration came yesterday while gardening.
Right, because there's a sense of urgency, you know, and we have to make the shift in consciousness now, otherwise, you know, we won't be able to.
Well, what's a Ponzi scheme?
Creating a false sense of urgency.
Getting rich quick.
What else about Ponzi schemes? Getting rich quick, urgency.
Lie and manipulation.
Yeah, deception.
Yeah. Only seeing part of the story. Like surrendering your sense of accountability to somebody else. Here's my money, take care of it. Sounds like a good plan. It's replete with everything. Back to my... The only reason I'm a hard ass on it is because people, it may be a way in, but to get stuck there, just like a Ponzi scheme, what happens at the end? You lose your shirt. You lose more than you get. And if you stay there long enough, then you start like selling the Ponzi scheme.
Right. To try and make back what you lost.
Which is why you start banging people over the head. We must change consciousness. We must... You don't care! You don't care! Rav, you don't care! Are you saying it's bad? Are you saying there's not a reason? I'm like, no.
Well,
No, but you're attached to yourself. It's another trick of the ego to make you attached to this plane, to this world. It's just another fucking trick. It's another game, man. Like there's the game, and then there's these sub-games. I know I segued off you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, I mean, one thing I've been like tripping off recently...
So you mean your years of being a snag?
A snag, right. Well, that was the part of the question is like there seems to be like a vilification and then also like a praising of certain types of masculinity. Like,
yeah.
And so... What's the question? It's, I mean, there's like the toxic masculinity or whatever, but like the feminization of masculinity, but like, I guess what in there is like, so the SNAG is a acronym for a sensitive new age guy. Like what in there is the SNAG like asking other people to validate that they're not accepting for themselves?
Their masculinity. Like they themselves have not... It's back to my analogy. It was like you're holding your masculinity because your masculinity got judged somewhere in your life, so you came to believe it's something wrong. And this all goes under wire. You don't realize this, of course. So you're holding a part of yourself outside of your field, which is a dangerous place to be holding parts of ourselves. And unconsciously, you're going around behaving in a way that you want her to say, oh, yes, that's great. You can have that, but it never happens. And then you get resentful. This is a great segue. I think we're going to cover everything. You get resentful, right? You don't realize that you're begging somebody out here to tell you that you can have your particular masculinity. And you don't know why you're getting angry. You're doing all the right things, and you don't understand why, you haven't accepted your masculinity. Do you understand? You're going around, it's underneath, you're like, please tell me I can have this. Please tell me, until, God willing, you bottom out somewhere and going, wait, have I accepted that? Oh no, ego's like, you can't accept that. That'll get you in trouble. Remember what they told you. Remember what they taught you. Oh yeah, right. And you may have glimmers of that, like right that. And then you get all like in denial again. Do you guys understand what we're saying? And this is a big problem in this culture. This demonization of qualities of a man and demonization of qualities of a woman, quite frankly. I should say the female and the masculine. Regardless of whatever secular trip you got going around of being an it or a they. That's not what I'm talking about. My pronoun's an it. That was my joke today.
Covering everything.
Well, no, you guys get it?
Yeah.
So you know this. You're walking around. So you've got, in one hand, you've got the manual of how it's supposed to look.
Right.
But then you've got the really darker, like how you actually are. But this has told you that this is wrong. But yet it's stalking you your whole life. And over time, this can wear down to gentlemen. This is where the porn thing comes in. This is where a lot of the bifurcation comes in. Living dual lives. It can also, the dark part of that is you can become a major gaslighter, men, folk. Because you don't realize that having your masculinity outside is demasculating you, and so then but you have the fucking book of like how to be a nice guy and get accepted, running your life, and then she starts questioning who you are and what you are, but you don't know that you're holding out your own masculinity, and you turn on her and start trying to make your resentment now is taken over, and you're trying to get her twisted to second guess her, so you can feel your masculinity because you don't own your masculinity. Oh, I could go on and on. Did you guys get this? My hands are full.
Yeah.
The whole time the man doesn't think that he doesn't understand how he's emasculating himself. But he's becoming very good at using his resentment and making her turn into a twisted, sometimes hateful, scared human being. Can women be gaslighters? Yeah, absolutely.
What's a gaslighter?
It looks slightly different with women. What's a gaslighter?
Yes.
Do you know what a gaslighter is?
It's like where you turn people's accusations back on them to try and like debase where they were coming from.
You fuck with their reality, right?
Yeah, so it comes from somebody who, like I just started to describe, who has no true self-esteem, usually has a blown out sense of themselves, right? But they have a really distorted sense of themselves, have no self-esteem, and they need a food source. And so they'll often find a corresponding person who is really truly loving, a big heart, but has no self-esteem either, but gives a lot. They'll hook into that person, right? And then as that person gets stronger and starts to feel good about themselves, because the gaslighter is usually pumping that person full of compliments and things like that. And then when they feel like they're getting strong, then they come in and they start, this is where their unconscious resentment is now trying to have control over their reality. They start to undermine that person's sense of their reality by getting them to second guess their decisions, by getting them all under the guise of, I'm concerned about you. Like shit like that. Right? Or this person just constantly starts picking away, and this gaslighter doesn't know what's operating. They just know that they have the right hand. They know what's right. Until this is based on a movie. It was called Gaslight. And in the movie, this woman marries this guy, in this case the gaslighter. And at the point where he feels like he has her, he starts doing strange things, setting her up, to eventually where she falls apart, has a nervous breakdown, and he gets to commit her. And it starts with flickering the gaslight in the dining room. And then he comes in and she's like, did you see that? And he's like, what are you talking about? You seem tired lately. I'm concerned about you. She goes, yeah, I am tired. They don't, usually the gaslighting starts after the food source catches on to them. Once the food source catches on and starts questioning, that's when the gaslighter has access to their anger that they're not checked into, and that's when they start gaslighting. You get it?
Mm-hmm.
I have a horrible story of somebody, somewhere, people I've worked with, I don't know, it doesn't matter where, it's somewhere far away from here. And she came to see me a few times. This is probably the most horrendous gaslighting episode I've ever personally had contact with. I'm not sure if she ever was able to get out of it because 3 kids are involved.
Mm-hmm.
But this is classic. Again, this is not to railroad men or women. It just happens to be another story of the man being the gaslighter. But remember, both people have a part of the story,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So the woman in the movie, she's very nice and very kind and but is not connected to herself,
Right. Yeah.
not taking responsibility for her dark side.
Right,
This is how
yeah.
you invite this shit in, right?
Mhm.
So in this story, is this worth telling?
Yeah.
This woman came to me after she divorced her husband. But it was in the middle of like a major gaslighting episode. And he was this is right a movie, upstanding citizen, highly respected, was one of those, worked in this, I won't say which service, but like one of like cop, high-end cop, high-end firefighter, the ones who have the skeleton keys to houses. You know the skeleton key that you can get into any house, right? He was a mucky muck in one of those public offices. And somewhere along the line, this person found out, this is after being married like 20 years or something, and they have three or four kids, I don't recall. And she finds out, this is how it always works, that this whole time he has this whole secret life of other women scattered through this whole town. Other families, other women. Can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
And she confronts him, and that's how this whole thing gets ugly. He's on, this is a sociopath right here.
Oh, really?
So he literally says, "You are lying. This is not true." They can look you in the eyes. The master of serial can look you in the eyes and say, "No, that's not true." And then he was a particular brand of it. Then he got her. Then he started attacking her, and started making her defend herself. Right. Anyway, long story short, it got really ugly. She finally did. I don't know how she did it. Got a divorce. But remember, now you've got a sociopath, gaslighter, narcissist who is beloved by everybody, angry. See, he can't live with the fact that she still believes it. This is really kind of complicated. But long story short is, by the time she came, so this is the backstory. And she's sitting there telling me, I'm like, "Tell me about your father." This is how I work with people. Like, what the fuck? I'm like, and then she started telling me about her father. How awesome he is. How perfect he is. Yeah. Right. That's right. But in an excessive way. And I said, "Oh," and at the time, this is a couple of years ago, so quite a few years ago now, I just blew it out, and she got angry. I said, "You can get angry, but I guarantee you, until you address your father, you're never going to be done with this ex-husband operation." Had her hairpiece fly off. I told her about gaslighting. She goes, "Okay, now that's making sense, but I don't know why you're bringing up my father." I said, "Not a problem. We can put Pop to the side." She said, then she started opening up again. Well, the gaslighting, Mr. Gentleman of the social, right, respected, he bought a house 2 doors down from her.
After they were...
Yes. Remember, she has some of his kids. She goes, "He moved in 2 doors down, Rev." I'm like, "Of course he did. Remember, he's got the ghost key." She goes, no one believes me. I'm like, of course they don't, because he's such a beloved guy. She goes, I know I'm not crazy. And that's when she got excited about hearing gaslighting. I'm like, tell me what's going on. She goes, I swear to God. I said, you don't need to defend yourself. She would come home because the gaslighter understands the insecurities of the person. She's a neat freak. She would come home and her pens on her desk would be swapped. The pictures would be slightly tilted or moved. This is a classic gaslighting. That's like a whole other level of gaslighting.
Like psychological warfare.
That's what gaslighting is.
Mm.
Cool, right? Okay, so it gets better. I didn't know if I'd see this chick again. Well, I came back around like 6 weeks later, and she was like beside herself. She goes, I don't know if I'm going to continue this, but I needed to let you know that you've helped me more than I even perceive that you helped me in a way that I don't even know if I'm able to take in. I'm like, well, it's not there for the grace of God. This got worse. And who does she go to first? She goes to her father. She opens up to Pop. She's telling me, she goes, I would not even have noticed this unless you had had that conversation. That was terribly uncomfortable for me to hear. She goes to her father, tells him what's been going on, and her father, the first thing he says is, honey, ever since the divorce, I've been concerned about you. I think we need to have an intervention. She says, Rev, it was like this whole closet of denial of all the times, like my dad questioned my decisions, like everything she had been in denial, like it just came, the door open and all of it came flooding in. And she said she could not believe, she goes, this is surreal. She goes, no, Dad, you don't. She goes, and he says, she goes, it was like he took on this like really strange, she goes, this is not happening. And he says, yes, we're going to do an intervention. This literally happened. He calls his ex-wife her mother, and they show up at her house trying to take her to the insane asylum, just like the fucking movie, like, a little, in Malibu or wherever the fuck it is, and they take these people, or Florida or where, or what, Mayo Clinic, She said, no, I absolutely not no, I'm not speaking to you for a while. No. So I don't know why this is important today. Denial.
Yeah.
Okay.
And where you're holding a part of yourself and you want everyone to accept
there
it,
you
but
go. Yes.
you just keep setting up the same.
You keep setting it up. He was
relationships.
holding that. He was looking. Because people who gaslight or who are susceptible are holding a part of themselves. She wanted to be accepted.
Yeah.
Now she made the understanding that she realized that she perceived her dad as never accepting that part of her. It gets subjugated. Then she walks around trying to get everybody to accept it, which opens you up to this kind of crap.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In this case, this is a very dark story of this gaslighter, nice guy, right? Very dark. I don't think I'm not sure whatever. I heard stories down the road of some violent, strange, like cars coming out of nowhere and trying to kill her. I mean, yeah, right? Yeah, I mean, it's not funny, but I'm laughing because of the human condition. We just have smaller versions of that. You're somewhere on the spectrum.
Right. Yeah.
The point of the story is anything you're holding out, whether it's, in this case, his masculinity. He felt emasculated by his mother, right? I can guarantee you.
Right.
And she felt unaccepted by her father. Boom, fucking boom.
Yeah.
What are those aspects? Well, here the rubber meets the road. Your ego now has created all sorts of justifications for keeping that part of you out. Can you give me an example so I know that this is making sense?
So, for example, if someone had a part of them that we could just call joy, that they felt it wasn't okay to be themselves or to be joyful. And so that would be like one of these disembodied parts
Yes.
that they're
Mhm.
carrying around, and
Absolutely.
then resenting the people they're with
Yes.
for the fact that they're not owning those things. They're like blaming it on the
Yes.
people around them.
That's right. And then there's stories, then if you do that over years, you have no idea of that you're not accepting it. You just have the stories of all that they've done to you. Do you see where it goes?
Yeah.
Which is where spiritual practice comes in, which is where you're confronted with yourself and all the files which is why you have to transcend all the files, the stories, the justifications to get down to brass tacks to go, what have I been doing? Oh my God, what are you? You scary little creepy looking thing. Well, I look that way because you've been abusing me for 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. And that's a real moment. You're like, this is where God, this is where the practice, everything comes in. Do you just then grab everything and pile it back on? Or do you make amends? Do you start making amends and saying, I threw you out. I disavowed myself from you. I made that choice. And that's where the ego is going to say, well, if it wasn't for me, if your mother didn't start the whole thing, if dad didn't, oh yeah. That's right there. That's where I freeze people. That's where I hang with people a lot, right there. I'm like, go back. No, Reb, it was horrible. You're saying it shouldn't have happened. No. Yeah, no. You see? But that was really bad. Right? It's a very strong magnet to go off the truth of something. You now have done twice as much reparable damage to yourself than whatever the event was.
Yeah.
You see how complicated this gets? And then you put all the files back on the aspect. Most people are walking around living like this, going, why am I never, what feels off? How come things don't, this is the human condition.
Yeah.
This is why when you fully, so we'll say that person brings it in, then you really can start saying the kingdom of God is within. Then you can truly start understanding, wow, put your faith in God and love people, all these things we blab, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not looking for anybody to accept you, which is then you're free to have healthier relationships. Making more sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're not walking around taking your little piles of now outside of you, they become little piles of nasty shit. Don't you understand? It's something of yours that you're holding outside and it's upset about that. It's like, no, it looks like Rosemary's fucking Baby, dude. It's like, okay, you're gonna take care of me, yeah, right? But it's not you, so nothing, so, do you understand? So when it's outside of you long enough, it starts attacking it starts attacking the person. It's like, no, you're not her. Nothing you say will ever fucking make it better until she wants me. And I'm gonna get in the way and fuck it up. I'm gonna fuck it up. Don't you see? The little crazy little fucking monsters. Is this making any sense?
Yeah.
Our little bits are like, yeah, but you're not home. You're not mom. You're not dad. How do I fuck this up? How do I fuck this up?
Jesus.
It's like, okay, then it's, okay, I'll play along for a while. Sure, this is fabulous. Yeah, okay, yeah. But you don't accept me. You don't accept me. So I'm going to step over here and trip him so he's going to get mad at you. And then we'll have our isolation again. Or he or she, he's like, your version, right? It's like, she doesn't accept you because you don't accept me. How am I going to unwind this? How am I going to unwind? Oh, let's leave the computer on so she finds the girls. Yeah. It's like,
Jeez.
welcome to my world, man.
Yeah.
So people come in, they look well coiffed, and they're like, all I see are like, so when I do, people walk in there, I'm like, hello, and they're like, hello, Reb, nice to meet you. I'm like, what about this? And like, and the thing is, these things know that I'm on their team.
Okay.
Do you see the little meanies, the little piles of shit that everyone's trying to act like, oh yeah. I'm like, those are who I'm actually addressing.
Wow.
Those are the things that when they come to see me, this is why I love what I'm so grateful. They don't scare me. I see the pain. They want to come home. But the person who made the appointment is going, I just don't seem to understand why I can't have healthy relationships and I have, issues with, I just don't seem to have access to my joys. Like, okay. And I'll say, well, I understand that. part of it is you don't have it because it lives outside of you. Well, why would I judge it, Rev? Well, that's a great question. That just doesn't make any sense. I've done all this research and all these classes and retreats, and I think you're full of shit. I have joy. Fuck you. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
And this little thing is like, it's like, it's like, try it again, Rev, try it again. Good luck with that. Good luck trying to talk about me with her. I'm like, it's like, you see what we got going on here? Is this helping at all?
Yeah.
What you're talking about is immediately bringing to mind Citizen Kane and Rosebud.
Oh my God.
Because you have this guy, the fellow, who goes through his life as this terrible tyrant.
Hearst, yeah.
And at the end, you realize that he says Rosebud at the end. No one
Yes.
knows it is, but it's his childhood joy.
Yes. People suffer. Do you want to see pain? This is the pain. You've pushed these aspects out, and that's what freaks people out. Most of the people are like, Rev, I feel like there's an entity in my space. I'm like, yes, it appears this way because that's part of your little booby trap around it to keep it out. That's why when people are like, oh, I got an entity, I'm like, look, there's entities and then there's this. This is a whole other level.
Where does possession come in then?
By keeping this part of yourself out, which is denial, starts creating an energy system, a tempest around it that I was telling him earlier, Alan. It pulls in like thoughts that correspond to that aspect. So back to the toxic masculinity. If a person's holding out their masculinity and there's judgment that they've judged as toxic, well then all the thoughts that agree with that collect around it like dust, and then it empowers it to appear that way. So the person even fights it even more to keep it out, and then how come I don't have access to my masculinity? How come I feel like I'm emasculated all the time? You see, it's just horrifying. And then that energy becomes a force that then it's like it starts believing that it starts believing in its power to stay outside of you, and it should stay outside of you, but it's going to control you. You see where I'm going? You see, it's very complicated. Like, it starts to control you because you have not accepted it. So anything we haven't accepted controls your ass. And that includes bits of you. So in that way, it becomes possession. Whatever you're in denial about controls your ass. Doesn't that freak you guys out? In other words, people think, well, what if I'm in denial of being happy? Because that's another form of denial, or denial of being a nice person, or denial of being a happy person, or joyful. Well, it's still the same thing. Anything you're holding out is hurting you. Whether it's negative aspects of yourself or positive aspects of yourself. In order to feel one way, you have to hold out another thing if you have that bias.
But if you're in denial, how do you ever access that? I guess you
Well,
would...
you have to realize you're in denial. And I'm trying to sort of fast forward that. How do you realize you're in denial? You are saying the same complaints.
Okay.
You're having the same arguments. Back to your question. You're having the same arguments, the same conversations. It's the sameness. You start being haunted by the same thing, over and over and over. Do you guys get it?
Yes.
That's as far as you need. If we were talking about relationships, back to, I think that's how we started.
Yeah.
For me, it's been 10 years of being really repetitive on the trip of need to make music, need to do theater, need
Right.
to make music.
That means you're in denial. There's something you're in denial about. That people immediately go for something like logic, or it is not necessarily logical. It could be that you can't do those things because you're in denial of your masculinity. Or you're not doing those things because you haven't accepted some event in your life that your mom hated your painting. How come I keep saying I want to do it? Well, look to the other direction, that you're probably in denial of some experience that you took in deep into your core that you suck as an artist. And your creativity's outside going, I know you judge me. It's like, but I want to paint. I'm like, talk to your creativity who doesn't really believe you want her. Because you're still telling the story about Mom, she was in second grade, she said it sucked. What's going on here? Is this helping?
Yeah, this is actually really helpful for me on my repetitive trip, because now I'm asking you. So you said instead of, because I've had this experience continually walking back towards these things, but nothing takes light. Nothing, there's no fire that starts. And what you just said about going in the other direction and going back to the disembodied thing, whether the creativity or the joy or whatever, you go back to specific moments in time where you might have taken on some misinterpretation or when you separated yourself or something?
This is where patience and humility and the rest practice help.
Okay.
Right? Where you're resting and you're saying, and this is where prayer can come in, you know. Because the thing that you're denial about may not be in your vision yet.
Yeah.
It may have been pushed so far down. You see? So having a little divine assistance would be helpful. Because you can kind of smell right now what's right. You can kind of smell somewhere, Alan, somewhere, you don't need to nail it exactly, but somewhere you're in denial. And it could be as simple as denial of your own ability and talent. Because someone didn't say it was great. And then believing that over your own knowingness, right? Believing the external world's judgment over our own knowingness. That's what it trunks down to.
Is it always or usually based on something that happened in your childhood?
Well, based on even a past life, we come in with all sorts of stuff, right? See where this goes, kids? You don't even need to go back there. Whatever injury you got in this life is a composite of all past lives, right? This life is a composite, so you don't need to do a bunch of like
Woo woo.
Yeah. I mean, that has its place. Only a little bit.
So if you find the reason why, let's say, Alan is not playing music, does he just push through it and starts playing regardless, or does he need to like do something with that idea?
No, he needs
Like,
to
I know what
find
it
out
is.
he's in denial of something. Either it was an experience or an aspect of himself
Right.
that's not allowing him to do these things that he says he wants to do.
And when you find what it is, what do you do?
Is that acceptance?
You bring it in. You liberate yourself from the hell. It could be it could be he's in denial of actually wanting to share it, but he was taught that he should want to share it.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? It could be just as simple as it could be the most simplest thing. You guys get that? It could be very well like he's in denial of the fact that he wants to do those things, but he wants to do them for himself and not have to share them. But he was said, no, you should share them. It could be as simple. You guys get that?
Mm.
The denial can be sometimes the most obvious thing.
How do you find it?
That's part of the journey. Look to where you're sad. Look to what you get the usual stuff. What upsets you? What makes you sad? What are the stories you hear yourself telling? Those are good ways in. Part of the fun here is see no Ponzi scheme. No shortcuts.
Sure. Okay.
Hey, take my workshop.
No formula.
Damn it.
I'm trying to give you an example. Joy was, right, very much personal to me. Right? I believed that by certain circumstances that I had to keep that out of my space to placate other people. That's a very direct experience. I suffered for years, right, until grace and work and practice was able to come in. It would come in and go out for a long time. That happens because of the egoic material. Really, yeah. And then there's this moment in time where it because you've cleared a space for it, your biases, your hang-ups, your stories, and then it's just, and that's really what this whole life is about.
And when that happens, you would experience, and you in the world, you'd have different experiences.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
It changes everything. It changes how you relate to everything. Because if we're holding parts of ourselves out, we're in a beggar's position. You don't want to be a beggar. If you're seeing now, there's all these disembodied, we're possessing ourselves. That's what I'm trying to say. These disembodied parts of ourselves are floating around. Hello. That's disconcerting, isn't it?
Is this what soul recovery is in the Native American tradition when they talk about that?
I would say so. I would just say yes. Because you have to understand, like, they don't necessarily, well, I'm not going to speak to that, but if this reincarnation is only because if you think it literally, if this is one big rehab unit and every life's a relapse, it's highly likely because we keep leaving parts of ourselves here.
Oh.
Whoa! Because we're leaving out parts of ourselves because we perceive external circumstances to be more real than who and what we really are. So we're leaving parts of it. Hey, I know. So I was like having a moment. Whoa, man!
That's big.
I love it. The suave look. It's like, yeah. It's like. That's when I know something's coming in, right? All my folk, I love everybody. We're like, oh, I love you guys so much. Everyone has a different look. Like Jorge's like, right? This one's like, right? Alan goes. I think it's awesome. I get the best seat in the house.
And what does Swami do again?
You've seen him do that.
Yeah.
Well, he and I get into creative space together, and yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We're both like,
I call it the Beavis and Butthead moment. Right? We love Beavis and Butthead, dude. Beavis and Butthead approach to spirituality. That's from so.
Wow.
Absolutely, right? Don't ever lose that. We get serious and then.
No. It's all over.
So
For
Yeah.
those of us who compartmentalize ourselves, is that denial or there's denial hanging around in some of that?
well, denial and compartmentalization kind of go hand in hand, don't they?
Okay.
Compartmentalization is the response to denial,
Oh, okay.
right? It's a response to it. It's like you have to be in denial before you compartmentalize.
Okay.
Which you're good at, right?
Yes, I am.
You're not alone.
No.
Like, what are you in denial? Like, well, come on, guys. Like, are you in denial that you're actually okay? That could be like you're actually happy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for example, like, I have my own business. That was one of my goals since I was a kid. So I was like, cool, I'm doing it. That makes me happy. Second, I do rock climbing, which I love. I genuinely love. When I'm doing it, I'm happy. So cool, more reasons to be happy. Doing that activity, I met really nice people who I love. I love hanging out, spending time. It's like, cool, I'm happy. But I'm single. And so I think, I'm missing a partner. And then I meet a girl who I think have a chance. But over a couple of weeks, then I realize, it's not working out. She doesn't love me. I get rejected. And then this huge depression comes in. And I'm blaming her, but then I realize, like, it seems that what really makes me sad is that now I'm just with myself again. And I guess I don't love myself. I don't love myself.
No, but see, I think that's a ruse. That, again, I have the luxury of working with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's true. See, I think people are often in denial that they're happy with themselves by themselves.
Right. That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Okay, you were okay. Excuse me.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, it seems like what hurt was not me being rejected, but hurts it's just being by myself again.
You're in denial of actually being happy just with yourself.
Yes.
That is very common.
Yes.
People, there's like a judgment around that. Like, actually, I'm happy just with myself. You eject that out, and all of a sudden, what do you feel? Lonely, isolated, curious about this. That's curious. But when did I do that? When did I throw out the truth that I'm actually okay with being with myself? That's where the practice is, right? That would be a prayer. When did I throw that out? Why is that so scary? Why did I go into denial about that?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I have to be in denial that I'm actually happy being with myself? These are the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys get it?
Mm-hmm.
That's a common one. I see this a lot. There's just some weird cult thing around this.
Cultural thing.
Cultural, cult and cultural. Funny word together. That's
Yeah.
People needing to be with somebody, like
Yeah, and then
togetherness.
because I see this guilt around being happy with oneself.
Mm.
And then the cultural biases that hold that denial outside of you. That's why it takes practice and work to cut through all that, so that part of you can come home.
Mm-hmm.
And then life, it's like, like I said, you can have relationships or not have relationships, or do this or do that, but you're not being run by something external.
Right.
We want all the bits home. Your stories, your experiences, your things that you've done that have hurt people, all of the things you may be in denial about, right? The facts of your life, the facts of your state of mind, how you really want to spend time, like all those things. It's fun. It's like, oh, let's go home. Let's go home. And then there's home.
That's really lovely. And I'm thinking, you say sometimes, like, don't torture other people. Like, people have their own stuff. And, like, even if a word that you might say or a criticism or a judgment would create someone's denial. It's like, wow.
Did you get what Tio's laying down?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you go ahead and give it a whirl? Give it a whirl, Tio.
I don't know that I have an example, but
Just how cruel we are to each other. Cruel. Unconsciously cruel.
How cruel I can be to myself, but
Right.
then certainly to externalize that and do that to somebody else, and that may, in that moment, at that time, either feed that denial, create that splinter and that denial, and that torturing of another human being. It's like my own stuff, and now I'm projecting on somebody else to then lifetimes of that.
Yes, sweetheart. Did you get
It's like-
that's big what she's getting.
Can you?
So let's all do Rachel.
It's right here. You just have to see
What
it.
she's saying is, wow, we're powerful. Like
Okay.
we have the capacity to build up or destroy.
And word,
A word,
a judgment.
a glance, a word. Like that's back to the power. Our Wednesday mornings are rest, right? It's like, wow, this is important. It's not just rest. It's a place of you're not creating more havoc. Did you get it when she did a round of it? So you're learning how soft-bellied and vulnerable people are, and how they're so ready to extricate parts of themselves because of a comment or word. Oh, I should be more mindful. That's what she's saying.
Okay.
I should be more mindful. I'm learning about, wow, ooh, all of a sudden, walk with soft touch softly, walk softly. Maybe I stay home for a week on end. And, it just makes you become more self-aware, right?
Yeah.
Before you just bladder off something. Yeah, it's really lovely. It's harder to, you're just a little bit more, we said this recently, you're more mindful with your relations with people. It doesn't mean you're go around like a numb zombie. You may still get angry, but how you get angry is different. You may still get, right? Making sense? You see now why I'm such a wacko about the processing? That's why I see so much violence done and all that excessive processing. Because underneath it, it's still, you need to tell me this is okay. But, you need to tell me. And the little beast is like, never gonna happen, fucker. Never gonna happen because she hasn't accepted me. Sure, I'll shake hands with you and we'll do this game. It's just, you see? And all the little beasties just get exhausted. Like whatever beast gets exhausted first. And like, oh look, it works. We found a compromise. It's just like, it's just a matter of time. It's just, I'm just tired. And weeks, right? You guys get it? The little beast is like, it's only because I'm tired. And his beast is stronger. And then the little beast is like, you're ugly. You're not pretty enough. He doesn't think you're pretty enough. You don't tell me I'm pretty. I don't know why you don't tell me. Honey, I tell you you're pretty enough. It's not you, though. It's not you. Yeah, see? He can't give it to you. Why don't you tell me? I only ask for so much. Why can't you at least tell me once a day that I'm beautiful? Never gonna work. Never gonna work. Never gonna work. Is this helping?
The world's an insane asylum. Yes. Perfect.
Right? It's like, honey, can't you just jack me off at least once a week? No, you get flaccid. You suck. Your dick can't get hard, right? It's like, nothing you do, nothing she says is going to do anything. Soft dick, flaccid dick, soft dick, flaccid dick. You're like, only if you fucking could like dress in a fucking lingerie outfit, you can fucking lose some fucking weight, you fat bitch. Flaccid dick, you don't respect me. You are a pussy. Are we on a roll?
Damn.
Wow.
Every day this is what I'm dealing with.
Okay.
At a certain or lesser level.
As we are ourselves. In our own
Yeah, but people are
torment.
coming going, Rev, I want a partner. You see what you see my situation. I'm like, I know. I know. But we have to deal with,
Yeah.
because this thing now is just, it's so full of your judgments. Now it's just turned on you is my point. The very thing that's going to liberate your ass is the last thing you're going to look at because it looks like it's terrorizing you.
Mm-hmm.
When people are like, Rev, I don't want to bring that shit in. I'm like, well, that's what.
This thing is the reason people kill themselves a
Yes,
lot
it
of the time.
goes there.
Precisely. Because this energy, this parts of you not being home are causing havoc. Because you don't want them, they don't want you. You get what I'm saying? Until you want me, you just had a moment. Until you want me, it's gonna suck. And if you don't, the longer you don't want me, that's why I said these are possessions. They start taking on life forms, which is why it gets confusing for people. Is that me? Is it an entity? What is that? I'm like, well, how long have you been doing it?
You mentioned before when people commit suicide, they stay frozen in that. Not frozen, but
No, it's limbo,
Oh.
right? You're there until you realize what you actually did. Like that which you thought you were running from, you get twice as much because it's a loving universe. Mother always provides. Mother always gives you what you ask for. You don't want any connection? You don't want any obligation? Not a problem. You get complete isolation until you realize, right? until you realize that which you wanted you had all along, and you are the problem. You don't want yourself. Until you want yourself, you're not out of that limbo. So these parts of ourselves, like, that's the whole meditation, is like to bring, that's why you got to be suspect of your desires. Your desires are running often on these disenfranchised parts of yourself. This is why I say to people, be careful what you think you want. Is as you heal, right, as you become more whole, as you take more accountability for yourself, as these parts come in, it's going to change what you want and who you, all these things, which is why the ego goes into weird crazyville. Because the ego now has based its whole reality on not having that part there. You see where it gets weird? It's like, what do you... No! No! You're not... No! No! What are you doing? And the little thing's like, oh, good, she's letting me in. It's like, as it gets closer to you, you're like, oh, you're not scary. And the ego's like, no! Don't you remember your mother said you sucked? You sucked at her. What are you doing? You can't bring that in. Okay. Yeah. And you see where it goes? Good luck with applying to that art school, fucker. And the ego's like, of course you can. Everyone tells you you're good. You don't need, of course you can. You can do anything you fucking want. See, these two are in cahoots, but they're in a very interesting cahoots.
Wow.
Do you get what I'm saying? And then the poor fucking person's like going to Pratt, trying to apply to Pratt, and writes all the essays and gets rejected.
And then that's like the new age, like folding back in as it feeds the ego, being like, just use affirmations and do this.
Oh,
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
why it's heart wrenching?
Mm-hmm.
Rev, I got the little stickers all over my apartment. I'm like, okay. And you don't believe a fucking word of it because you're reading those. It's like, you do suck. You suck, you suck, you suck. You're like, without me, you're nothing. Good luck with that. Ego's like, yes, you can. Look what people have said. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I mean, crazy town.
Jesus.
Because does it sound familiar?
Yeah.
It's home.
Right? It sounds familiar. It's like, and this is when you start going, this is no, you've heard of the angel on the right and the devil
Yeah.
and all those things, right?
Mm.
It's not quite that, but it's similar in that, wait a minute. This is why it takes time for people to get where I'm laying down. I'm like, wait, you're asking, like you're saying that this exists, and I have a sense of it, Rev. We'll say somebody I worked with for a while. I can sense my masculinity close by. I can sense that I have moments of access. And I can sense when I choose my egoic structure of being a nice guy, for instance. And I'm starting to realize, like, wait a minute. What are you? Why are you wanting to stay disavowed to this? That would actually bring me, like, a little liberation, a little solidity, and a little happiness, and a little, like, what the hell are you? Well, the ego's all based on survival and acceptance of the external world. So the closer you get to self-acceptance, the ego actually naturally starts quelling. It starts like simmering down. But because we've paid into this thing, which is all for external purposes, this thing, you see the situation, we have to rewire, as they say. You've heard me say it this way. You got to want yourself more than people's acceptance.
Yeah.
See the situation? I think this is the clearest we've ever said this. Yeah?
Yeah.
I'd like to think, maybe, today. You guys are bringing it on. It's coming through. You're helping. You're bringing it to me so you're all ready. I think it's like all ready to like, wow, what is that thing? Outside, no bueno.
But do you accept yourself the way you are? Or do you accept...
Yeah, you have to. This is what I was saying to Al earlier. Like, why people are like, oh, just accept yourself. Like, I had a gentleman here the other day who's got issues up the yin yang, the kazoo, every substance known to man. Mom dry humped him I've like a master dry humping situation. lives at home at the age of 38, the whole fucking 9 yards, right? He lives somewhere in a couple states over. And it's just like, what do we do with here? And he says, Rev, it's driving me crazy. People are like, just love yourself. I'm like, no, you have no clue what the fuck that means. Tell him to shut the fuck up. Back to my Ponzi scheme approach. That's hurting that guy to hear that shit.
Okay. Yes.
Right? That's what you're saying. It's like, it's like, what are you saying that to people? Well, I only mean good. Of course you do. You only mean good shit. Well, you just need to like yourself. Fuck you, man. My whole operation is like not to like myself. So I can stay in this guilt and shame thing with my mom and dad. Because that's how I get little crumbs of acceptance. Do you see? Back to your accepting. This guy can't accept anything about himself. Let alone that he's, well, it doesn't matter, but it's contrary to the very programming. Which is why people think it sounds simple. But when you truly start understanding what accepting yourself means, all your ego constructs come up to confront you. Because this being accepted by people has outweighed being accepted by yourself, like at a mega level. And that takes a while to deprogram yourself and get off the cult trip. Once you realize what you're doing, the violence that you've done, once you've got to want yourself more than anything else in this world. You've got to want true, like the closest thing to any kind of happiness or joy in a human body on earth. You've got to want that more than anything else in this world. You got to be done, man. Now you know why we hit that so hard. Caring how other people think of you is your road to hell. Now you know why, right? Because that's what extricated these parts out. People think, well, you're gonna, and this is where you can hear it.
It's exhausting.
You're gonna, yeah.
It's like escapism. Like it could, like porn, drugs, whatever, just to escape the daily.
Well, that's the one place where often people have a little access to these parts, and that's what's sad. Right, and that's where these parts get very interesting, because they sense that you want access to them, but you're going through a medium to access it, and so they feel defeated too. They're like, okay, I sense you're reaching for me, but you're not coming direct yet. So now I'm going to make you dependent on that thing, or her, or the person, or the belief, or the situation, or the town, right, or the neighborhood, or whatever it is. You get what I'm saying, man? Like this little part gets excited. It's like, oh, okay, not a problem. This thing wants so much to come home. These things want so much to come home. They want to come home, right? Why do you think they're so upset? You've had a recent experience. They want to come home. It's like, and it's like opening the door and saying, yeah, come on in, and then slamming it in its face. How would that piss you off over time? Would you turn into a whack job? It's a horrible analogy, but it works, right? It's like, gee, Rev, your joy's right there. Oh, is that it? Oh no, that's too threatening. Slam, and the thing hits the door. And it's just like, I'm not down with this, man. It's like, I'm not, you know what? Fuck off. I'm going to stand out here and mess your life up until you realize what it is you're inviting in. You either want me or you don't. You either want their approval, you want that, you want it to look a certain way, or you want me. You decide, fucker. But until then, I'm going to sit in your front yard and sing songs in the middle of the night and humiliate you, embarrass you, and bring attention to you in the last way you expect. The good news is this is you. Like, right? This is you. Like, right now, like what? Okay, right now, let's do a group exercise. Like, what aspect of yourself are you still, just simple, something small that you're still holding out about yourself? I'll wait.
I'm pretty flamboyant.
Where is, can you bring it in? See how does it feel like when you bring it in?
It's actually not as performative as I believe it to be.
That's absolutely correct. It's interesting. It's only external that it feels that way. Internal, it turns into something else. It will metamorphosize into something else.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed since like I had a big week 2 weeks ago.
Oh, we had a big session.
Yeah.
We had a couple back.
Couple in a row, yeah,
Yeah.
3 in a row or so.
Yeah.
And since then, it's just been like life is different. Like I desire different things that I maybe had desired or just actually not appealing or don't have a draw. Like it's like an actual fundamental shift. Like things are just different.
Yeah. It's really a trip, and it really works. It's as simple as I don't want to live in the city anymore. Right? Like that could become a denial for some people, especially if you're. But my whole life is, here it goes. You know what shows up? Right? But you've cultivated a whole life here. People are depending on you. And you're like,
It's like what a gift that those parts you extricate from yourself make you dependent on something so that you can bottom out on it.
that's absolutely right. Especially other people's perception of you. Which is what we were reading in class today. Without samsara, we wouldn't want to wake up. Right? This is samsara.
Right.
We've disassociated parts of who we are to accommodate this external world, essentially.
I was raised to be well dressed and live in cities and earn 6 figures or more, but in my heart of hearts, all I want is a rural life, a simple life. Like I've always wanted to just be like a Brazilian goat farmer.
So what are you in denial about? So put it in the context of what we're talking about. What aspect of yourself? Is that what you're realizing? Yeah. So you've been in denial of what?
So I've been in denial that I don't want anything to do with a white collar life. And I also want to have a rural life or a simple life. And not in like the fantasy of like, I'm going to start a retreat center off a ranch.
But trunk it down, Alan. Is it as simple as I've been in denial of the life that I'd like to live?
Yeah.
Or the way, it may be more refined that I've been in denial of the way I want to live. Because
I haven't had any courage or confidence to think that I could move.
Well, because you're not bringing the denial in. You're not bringing the denial in. You're not owning it. It's just living out here. So there's a deeper denial that you probably offered up that or said that's what you wanted, and someone's judgment of it overridden what you really wanted, which is why you went into denial about it. Did you get that, everybody? Did you?
So it's like double denial.
Yeah. You wanted something, you offered that up, but you offered it up probably through your own denial of wanting someone to say that was good. They didn't, so you doubled down is what you're saying. You doubled down. You're like, well, I shouldn't want that. I should want this, but it's already on top of some part of you that you already had thrown out.
Right, so you were like doubting, you're like, should I want this? Which is sort of like a kernel of doubt. And then someone's like, you shouldn't want that. So then you like extra deny it.
Extra denial. And for you, I think it's involved in your masculinity. Because masculinity is saying, go west, young man. The ability to act. The ability to say, that's what I want. So I think that was already subjugated. And then the desire to just want to live a simpler life was not fully inside you. It was outside of you. Because your masculinity is outside of you, and so whatever commentary or perceived judgment of that doubled down. Does that? I think we're on a roll today, Al. Yeah, man. Dude, and you wonder why there's so much murder in families and relationships.
It's that because the statistics are murders in families are committed almost unilaterally by men against their spouses.
Yeah, and I could go on. This could be a whole other podcast. My feelings around. Well, both parties have a certain responsibility here. Women have a responsibility. Men have a responsibility.
So by chasing the masculine out of our society, are we just like trying to rear a generation of sociopaths and
Yes.
psycho killers?
Revzo will sit here and say right to the camera, we are collectively raising generations of psychopaths and sociopaths.
Well,
And everybody has a part in that. The women, the way you're raising your men, your boys. The fathers, the way you're behaving in front of your boys.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, where do again, not a problem. It's still mother's charge. It's mother's creation. She will deal with her creation as she sees fit. Never forget. But yes, all this politically correctness to this extreme, this kowtowing, this enabling, this trying to curate a culture is going to be the destruction of it. You are, by trying to falsely create a reality through external means, is totally ignoring the crazy I just acted out. Do you see where that's a double down nutbag, Bill?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're doubling down on the crazy already. This is why the Ponzi scheme approach to spirituality, the psychological sort of explanations, the humanist approach, very superficial. Not a problem. They may crucify you in the process, but not a problem. I mean, that's the story of JC. The folks, many of the folks didn't want to hear the truth that the truth of heaven is within. It's not it's what we're talking about.
I think so.
Huh?
Yes, I think so.
Right? Be like a child and enter the kingdom of heaven. No, you got it. Don't you? What are you saying? Attack. And then a few people are like, whoa, I understand that. We are collectively creating generation of sociopaths and psychopaths. That will eventually implode on itself. It's already happening.
Yep.
I don't like this, I don't like that, you can't say that, you can't look at me that way, don't call me that, I don't like that, enough with free speech, that's not okay, It's all the negative. And then now you see it more through my eyes, right? Well, who's doing that? What's doing that? All these bits out here, it's like, you can't call me that, you don't accept me. No, dude, you don't accept the little beasties out here going,
So this goes back to what you said in the beginning about how the longer they're out there, the more they start to constellate
Yes.
ideas and images
Yes.
and energy. And there's something like this movement of political correctness is like consolidating all these things
Yes.
into an
Yeah.
army.
Yes.
Like a revolutionary
Thank you.
force to overturn society.
I'm sure that on my pussy non-alcoholic beer, I'm sure this girl would upset somebody out there. Are you?
You're objectifying women.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing to attempt to animate or represent visually. It's like, because then we're really talking about, oh, that's offensive. Oh, that's a Latinx woman dressed like Betty Boop. That is so offensive.
Okay,
of
my
course
question-
people in Milwaukee would do that.
Yeah, of course, that's white fucking male patriarchy again.
Mayonnaise white over there.
Don't you know that Milwaukee is actually a Native American?
Where does it stop?
We're not worthy.
Look, man, it's like, so, like, only we are judging it to be a problem.
Right.
When you live in the negative like that, there's something really fishy. I'd like to say you're curating reality. You're trying this is what's happening. You're trying to curate reality. At the point that you realize that that's hurting you, then something will change. My prayer is that everyone out there who's maybe listening, who's still doing that, will you please, I humbly ask, start looking at how that operation is hurting you. To constantly trying to curate the world around you, you're not just hurting other people. Take a look at how that's hurting you. That's a hungry ghost, man. That's a brutal hungry ghost. Now you know more what these are. All right. When they're inside, you see things flow. I'll have some of this, then it's gone. She's here, she's gone. It's here, it's... That's the whole... So we can go big picture, small picture.
That's what it looks like when you're happy with yourself. Life happens and you don't judge it.
The plane is late, my favorite. All that's happening is the plane is late. What I do with that is what creates my life.
Okay.
There's this beautiful young woman from the 40s on the can. That's all. That's there.
Right.
Anything after that is my fucking noise.
Yes.
Do you guys get it?